Hello, folks. Good to see you all again. Sorry I missed you last week, but shit happens. Good to see you all again. Got a few people with us so far. We got Sable, always the first one here. Hey, Sable, good to see you. Got Jens with us. How you, Jens? Hello, Peter, and Tusk. Hello, sir. How are you? Um, yeah, well, I'm sure others will show up pretty soon. But yeah, so how's everybody been? It's been a bit of an interesting couple of weeks for me, and doesn't seem like it's going to let up anytime soon. But hey, what the hell? Everybody got your cup of reason? I know I got mine. I can't seem to get away from this stuff. It's life in a cup. So, um, yeah, you guys probably have a whole bunch of scratch your head questions about the thumbnail for this stream. Uh, I will admit the thumbnail is it's a little bit of hyperbole, but um, I thought it would make for an interesting uh, chit chat, just to get some different ideas and different opinions about the state of society these days and where it seems to be heading, and just wondering if you guys feel the same way about some things as I do. Probably not, and that's cool. I can accept everybody's opinion. So yeah, I thought maybe we'd have a bit of a talk about that. And if there's something you want to share, by all means, stick it in the chat or send me a message in Discord. I'll send you a link and you can come on and talk to me. Always happy to have more people on. So yeah, everybody's welcome. Roisin, hello, how are you? Hot Mess Express, reporting for duty. Welcome. And Sable, the state of society these days, fucked. Yeah, pretty well. It's in the shitter. It seems to be heading down there a lot quicker than anticipated. Hello, Clive. Good to see you, sir. Welcome. So, heading for a cliff and people fighting to go faster. Yeah, that's kind of the way it seems. And yeah, I did see your comment there, Tusk. And yes, I fully agree. The 6 billion-year-old planet can't blame the state of the planet on the people who are barely out of their teens. It's not what I'm saying. This is more about the direction that society is taking, and it's really, I've noticed over the past several years that it seems to be degenerating at a much more rapid pace every damn year. And it's really almost, it's worrying to think of where we're going to be another few years from now. So I thought I'd just throw it out there and see what people think and get some of your thoughts and feelings on that. So hey, Kat, how you doing, buddy? It's that guy with coffee and stuff. Yeah, that's right. That's me. Roisin, you can make a good point. I think every generation has the same opinion of the next generation. And that's true. The generation that came before ours or mine probably had the same opinions about my generation as we have about the one that comes after, or the few that have come after. So yeah, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm just here to express my thoughts and opinions and just kind of stimulate a little bit of conversation about stuff. So yeah, it's always good to see you guys. Dr. Nimrods, I have thought, well, let's not go that far, but you might, you never know. You could try. Let's see. Sable, of course, with his lengthy comments. A few years ago, people started worshiping Darth Vader. What the fuck? He was meant to be an incarnation of the evil in the evil empire that was deliberately based on fucking Nazis. Well, kind of. I've heard that argument quite a few times. I don't know if that's exactly what's the case, but it's certainly to some people seemed that way. I don't know if you guys remember back in the 70s, there was made-for-TV miniseries about called Visitors, where these aliens came to the planet. And, they were wearing human suits and there were lizards underneath and so on. But if you ever look at that, if you ever get a chance to look back at some of those episodes, take a look at their ships and the insignia on it. You'd be surprised how very similar they are to the swastika. I think that had more of a direct relation to, or not relation to, but reference to the Nazis than Darth Vader. But yeah, interesting thought. Roshin, the nuclear generation, World War II, they were claimed to be the death of the planet. And I held that belief for a while myself, I'll be honest, because that is some scary shit. And it's gotten more and more scary in rapid succession since then. The yield of some of the weapons that are still in existence today is unfathomable. And none of it, I think, would be here, or at least not to this degree, had it not been for what happened in World War II. But it was inevitable that we would make that discovery. Although I think it would have been much more beneficial had we made that discovery in peacetime for peaceful use than in wartime for destruction of our enemy. Again, that's my viewpoint. And, but yeah, Tusk makes a comment. Ever since we learned how to split the atom, the world has been on an inevitable downward spiral. And I agree. Nuclear proliferation has destroyed a lot of the hopes of the future, in my opinion. However, there have also been some wonderful discoveries that have led to some incredible technologies that are beneficial to us as well. But yeah, you're right. Nuclear weapons, they need to be gone, period. There's just no justifiable reason for anyone to have them. And I still find the Americans' use of them in World War II was deplorable. It did save thousands of lives and it ended the war here and now, but I still think it was I don't know. I still can't say that they 100% justified it. And it's become a problem in the back of the minds of the world. So let's see. Clive says, I know the son of one of the scientists who first split the atom, Walton. Wow. That is a really interesting little trivia bit. Thanks for that, Clive. That's interesting. I mean, like I said, discovering the atom and how to split it and discovering nuclear energy it is not entirely a bad thing, but what we have done with it is a bad thing. It should have been used for other purposes and not gone directly into massive weapons development, because we're on the doorstep of destruction every day. And although it's not as prevalent or as in the forefront of our minds in modern day, it's still there. And all it takes is one jackass with a nervous trigger finger to hit a button and it's done. We're all done for. And that's a scary thought. And right now, the people in power of the major nations that have them are not the most stable, in my opinion, on both sides. So it's worrying. Interesting. The Australian Aborigines had the right idea. If something that powerful was in the ground, it was doing something important. So fucking leave it there. That's a damn good point, Tusk. That's a damn good point. But it's in human nature to discover things and fashion them to something that we can use. Unfortunately, we often fashion it into something bad that we can use against others. For some reason, the human race just has this tendency to do that. It's scary. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily correct. If it hadn't been for the war, we probably still wouldn't have nuclear tech. No, I think we would have discovered it either way. I think with the rate of technological development since the war, it was bound to come up. So I can't say that we'd still be without nuclear energy or the knowledge to find and use nuclear energy. I think we still would have discovered it, but I think things would have been a lot different had we discovered it and developed its use for peacetime, for the benefit of all, and not as a weapon of war. That's the crux of it, I think. It's the period when we did this, when we finally did discover it and develop it. We did it for malicious reasons, for dangerous reasons. We did it to kill others. You know what I mean? It seems kind of, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just going off on a tangent, but I think we still would have discovered it, but the timing of the discovery is led to the problems we're having with it today. Forgive me if my throat is a little bit weak. I have been battling with some problems in that area, so just bear with me. I hope it's not too bad. I hope you guys can still hear me clearly. Okay. Once I get back into the classroom, start yelling at the kids again, it'll come back loud and strong. So no worries about that. Peter makes a comment that discover great knowledge, then use it to blow shit up. And that's exactly what happened. We made an incredible, remarkable discovery, and we went the wrong direction with it. We use it to blow shit up instead of create things. But I still am a huge proponent of nuclear energy. I think it's the way to go. I think the whole world needs to get on board and develop sustainable nuclear energy and stop the use of fossil fuels. The planet is crying out to be saved on that front. So as far as that's concerned, I'm 100% for the development of safe nuclear energy as a sustainable energy source. Well, yeah, you're probably right. It probably would have started in Germany because they had some of the best scientists on the planet at that time, and you can't deny it. And the first bomb would likely have been conventional in a uranium casing. It's a really dirty bomb. Yeah, but you're right. Had it not happened, I could certainly see the Germans having developed it around about the same time. So on that front, maybe it's a good thing that we got there first. But then, by the same token, were we really justified in using it the way we did? Right? So, if the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki had not been dropped, maybe the first use would have been between a fully armed USSR and NATO, with leaders unaware of their devastation. That's also a very valid point, Clive, and I'm glad you brought that up because you're absolutely right. But still, I think after the devastation of World War II, I think had the discovery been made afterwards, we'd have been a little bit more cautious in our approach to how we used it, and without that that massive demand right up front to get something that'll kill somebody else, and that was the driving force behind it, and that was the wrong motivation for the discovery and the development of the technology. For whatever justification that's offered, for whatever reasons, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too much of an anti-war person, but what can I say? um, See, the problem with nuclear energy is that the waste material is just as dangerous as it is in its weaponized form. They tried to dump it in here in Scotland and again in Australia. No thanks. That was true for quite a while, but not so much anymore. And I think if you do a little bit deeper research on that, you'll find that the way nuclear waste is handled nowadays is actually surprising, and how much better we have gotten at it. So that's something that's continually getting better. So it's not as hazardous as it once was, but you know, like anything, it's about responsible management and responsible uh, control and use. So. Yeah, you're right. There are very very many what ifs, but you know, like everything, we all have our thoughts and opinions about it. But that's not really what this stream is about. You know, what I want to talk, what I wanted to discuss, and hopefully you guys have got some interesting stuff. Is just the degradation of society, especially over the past 20 years since we've come into the 2000s in this new millennium. Um, I mean, I don't know what's wrong with society these days, but it's getting to the point where nobody is really free to do anything they want anymore. Um, it's so easy for people to take offense, and the younger generations nowadays have become so unbelievably entitled and just expect everything to be given to them without any work or effort or any kind of system of earning what they get. It's just expected to be given upon demand. And I see it every day. And the kids in each successive generation are getting worse and worse and worse. And it's becoming it's why we're ending up with Karens and people who just think that the world owes them everything and they should be given whatever they want whenever they ask for it without question or hesitation. You know, and if you have something they want, they should be allowed to just come and take it away from you and say, yeah, I should be allowed to have this and not you, and have you not really have any right to say anything about it. You know, that's the kind of thing that's starting to happen. And I'm looking at this from the standpoint of a person who deals with these young up and coming generations year after year after year. Um, and from what I have, from what it was like when I first began this journey here in Vietnam, uh, 20 years ago, children have changed. The mentality of society has changed. And I have to say it, they are losing their grip on what it means to be a part of a functioning society and how to contribute. It's just, oh. Clive says, I agree. We should send the kids back up the chimneys and provide them with a good factory work experience. Absolutely right, Clive. Absolutely right. Nowadays, kids, you can't get them off their fat little asses and lift a finger to do anything for themselves. And it's getting to the point where as they go into their teens, they're not improving. It's getting worse the older they get. And they're whiners and complainers, and yet they're not willing to lift a finger or make any kind of effort whatsoever to improve their situations. They just expect the world to fix it for them and give them the perfect life and all the money and all the things they want, and they should just be able to sit on their fat duff and enjoy it all, and then complain when they don't get it, and it's driving me mad. um, See Discord. Okay. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, well, that's interesting. Hang on a second. I'm going to stick that on my desktop. Just give me a second. Save. All right. So, one thing I would like to kind of share with you is a meme. I'm sure you've all seen it before. It's probably been around hundreds of different iterations, but it is so pertinent to what I see today and the way I kind of a lot of people feel about it. So I'm just gonna kind of bring this up here. There we go. And I'm just going to take that down. I mean, that's kind of the way I feel. And a lot of people I talk to feel the same way. They claim that they're going to change the world, and yet they can't even do the most basic things, and they're not willing to actually do anything. That's a big problem. But Clive sent me, or sorry, Sable sent me something that maybe I should share with you guys. Here we go. Our youth love luxury. They have bad manners and despise authority. They show disrespect for their elders and love to chatter in place of exercise. Young people are now tyrants, not the servants of their household. They no longer rise when their elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up food, and terrorize their teachers. Socrates. How true. And that's still true today. And it's getting worse. But then, hey, that's just the way I see it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I just being maybe I'm just being a grumpy old curmudgeon, but man, when I was a kid, we earned everything that we got. We had to use our imaginations and our own ingenuity to make our own fun, to explore and learn about the world around us. And we were taught respect, and we were taught how to give and earn respect, social behavior, just all of that. It's gone. Kids today haven't got the first damn clue what any of that stuff is, and they don't care. The kids have absolutely today they're utterly useless. Most of them, they're just absolutely utterly useless, and they don't show any kind of gumption to do better. Yeah, I think we all had a paper route to make money when we were kids, right? Let's see. What's your opinion of this newfangled jitterbug music? Well, you learn to live with it, right? Music ain't what it used to be, but at least there's still some stuff out there that doesn't give you a migraine and kind of can be relaxing at times. But for the most part, I prefer the stuff from when I was growing up. it's the kind of stuff that people like to listen to these days. That newfangled EDM and all that stuff. That just gives me a headache. So I go out of my way to really scrub through the music services to find nice, mellow, jazzy kind of laid back grooves that won't give anybody an epileptic fit or something, Yeah, right. Uh huh. Yeah, right. Uh huh. Tell you, I'm getting ready for another year of that crap. It's just funny you mention that. My brother did that. He'd go out about 4 or 5 o'clock every morning, and he'd be working on a milk truck, running bottles up to the front door, bringing back the empties every morning. He used to do that. And I remember when I was growing up, I was 6 or 7 years old. Uh, he took me out every once in a while on the route, and I helped out. So yeah, I remember those days when milk was delivered to your door in glass bottles. Boy, whatever happened to those? Eh? Now milk comes in these friggin' tear open cardboardy paper kind of pouches. What the hell? Just I learned which plants and animals were dangerous by getting stung, bitten, and poisoned. Yeah, kids don't have to do that now. That's a good thing. You're right. I think we've all done that. I've been bitten, stung, and almost poisoned. God knows how many times when I was a kid. Um, Bike accidents from doing stupid shit, trying to be a evil Knievel, because he was a big thing when I was a kid. So we all wanted to be evil Knievel. Make my own little jumps with rocks and boards and go pedaling on the street. And when I hit the ramp, instead of going up the ramp broke from the weight, and I went over the rocks at first and split my tooth in half, and it went through my bottom lip, and I still had the lump where it went through. But hey, I learned what not to do anymore, and I learned quick, and learned a little bit of physics and momentum, and as well in the process. So, yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Kids just don't have a damn bit of interest in getting out there and learning stuff, and just doing stuff. It's all got to be prefabbed, hand delivered, and spoon fed. If it's not, it's too much effort. That's what we're dealing with. And that's why we see all these Karen's videos on YouTube. It's rampant. People think that they have a right to whatever they want at everyone else's cost, and they should just be given what they demand without question. And then get pissed off when you don't give it to them. That's what all these Karens are all about. It's just the entitlement and the laziness and the absolute disregard for anybody else. Just give me what I want when I ask for it, and if you don't give it to me, I'll just create a scene, tear your shit up, and make your life a living hell until you give it to me. And that's it's getting worse. It's been almost 5 years now since the last time I actually saw a student in one of my classes open a book and actually read. Just read. Nowadays, if you see a kid read anything beyond a comic book with all kinds of pictures and maybe 2 words on the page, that's what they call reading. Their kids are losing their ability to reason. They're losing their ability to learn and investigate and actually develop a necessary skill. You know, most of the kids nowadays, their writing skills are atrocious. Handwriting is the worst I've ever seen. And every year it gets worse. Kids scribble, grade 5 kids scribble like worse than kids in kindergarten used to when I was in school. You know, like a chicken walked on an ink pad and walked across their paper. The basic skill of just clean, neat writing on paper, they can't do it. They're losing that ability. Most of the kids I see in my classes now can't do it. And they don't put any effort into trying to learn. And that's, oh man. Let's see. 1970s, you can get a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a large garden for $70,000. Now you can get a house on that same road for $450,000. And the median wage has doubled in that period. Yeah, well, the wage has to double because the prices will keep going up. And that's another thing. Most of the Western countries, the cost of living is so damn ludicrous that there's no fathomable way that you can justify it. Back home in Canada, the cost of living is ludicrous. It's an absolute nightmare. You can't even survive in Western countries anymore without 2 or 3 jobs. The cost of living is absolutely out of control. You know? And there's no justifiable reason for it. None whatsoever. Yeah, you try and tell young people of today that, and they won't believe you. Yeah, my handwriting was always atrocious, but since my strokes, I have a valid excuse. Yeah, well, it's one thing to have atrocious handwriting skills. It's another not to have the skills at all, where you can't even scratch out a friggin' first letter of your name in an intelligible manner. I'm sorry. It really starts to piss me off, you know? Yeah, a lot of things have changed as far as that's concerned. Price of everything is just become insane. I don't know what you guys pay for a loaf of bread in your respective countries. But when I was a kid, we could buy a loaf of bread for a dime. By the time I was in high school, the loaf of bread was 25 cents, maybe 30 cents if you got the really expensive designer bread, you know. Now you can't buy a loaf of bread for under $2, you know. Yeah, concert tickets were 5 to 10% of a weekly wage. I couldn't even afford a concert ticket nowadays. So, hello, Glober Mom. Good to see you. Hello, Sir Little Wolf. Always nice to see you. Yeah, so, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it seems like human civilization and society has been through hundreds of generations. And the advances societies have made to where we are today, it's remarkable how far we've come. But when you look at today's up and coming generations, I can just see it all going down the toilet inside a year if something isn't done. So, there needs to be something done to straighten these kids out. You know, wake them the fuck up and saying, we're not going to be here to fix it for you for very much longer. You know, get off your fat fucking ass, learn to do it for yourself. That's my point. You know? Yeah. £1.50. So that's like 2.25 back home. Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, here in Vietnam, it's not that far from that. we can still get bread here for about $1 and $1.10, $1.20 for a loaf. But even here, it's getting higher and higher every year. Just keeps going up and up and up. So you're kidding me. They're allowing PragerU videos in the classroom in Florida? You're kidding me. Somebody needs to line up the Florida Board of Education and shoot the lot of them. How fucking stupid is that? That's like breeding ignorance. Yeah, again, same thing. And Glober Mom. Yeah, we can get the store brand bread for $2, but the whole grains are $3 to $4. Isn't that just ridiculous? I mean, Glober Mom, you're probably from around about the same generation as I'm from. You remember the days when you can go to the corner store with a quarter and get an entire loaf of bread, and maybe even have enough left over for a stick of bubble gum? You know, my mom used to do that. She'd give me a quarter, tell me to go to the store, and I knew it was 20 cents for a loaf of bread, so she let me use the nickel to buy a stick of gum. You know, it's sad. It really is sad. Oh man, that's another thing. 6 cans of beer and 20 smokes, and still have change from 20 to buy sweets and a chipper. Yeah, okay, that's reasonable. When I was a kid, it was dirt cheap, dirt cheap for all that stuff. And even here, it's still not that expensive. A pack of smokes here still is only about $1.25 at most, and a 6-pack of beer about $2. So that's still pretty cheap here, but I don't think that's going to last much longer either. Yeah, you see, there you go. It's 58. You remember getting 25 cents in a week's allowance. Yeah, same here. That was exactly what I got for a week's allowance, was a quarter. And when I was in high school, my dad upped it to 50 cents. You could buy a candy bar, a Jolly Rancher, and have leftover. Yeah, absolutely. For me, a quarter would get me a bag of chips, a candy bar, and a can of Coke. Or it was still in the bottles in those days. They didn't have the cans yet. So, yeah, I remember those days. Boy, I remember those days. Oh. Yeah, it's getting more and more expensive. And I heard that in the UK now, they've really made it almost impossible for smokers. And I understand the reasoning behind it. I agree. It's not really good for your health. No, I know. But, it's still, there comes a point where there has to be a limit as to how far a government can go to dictate how you live your life. And I think that's just going too far. Yeah, I thought of doing that too, but I recall paying 5p for a packet of crisp and a half a p for an individual chocolate mouse. Yeah. And those days are long gone. But still, I mean, but even then, even though things were cheaper back then, and we still had to work and earn that 25 cents a week that we got from mom or dad for an allowance, right? We had to work for it. We had to earn it. And if we didn't do our chores or didn't get good grades, we didn't get that allowance. And we felt it, right? And nowadays, it's like whatever it is, all a kid has to do is "Wah," and boom, mom and dad are there with all the goodies. Here you go. You know, it's what happened? What happened? Where did we go so wrong? And parents have lost the ability to raise children. They haven't got the first damn clue because they were the same way as their rotten little monsters are today. They were the same way when they were kids. So it keeps getting worse and worse because when these rotten little monsters grow up and have kids of their own, they're going to be even less strict or demanding on their kids, to the point where having kids is just simple regeneration of the human species, and the first one to come out rules the roost. You know? Granddad. Yeah, thanks, Tusk. I appreciate it. Say hi to Eddie for me. Yeah, you're right. And it doesn't there are no signs of it changing at all. And that's why it worries me. I mean, there are still enough of us left to keep things going and fixing problems and developing better ways of doing things. But what happens when we're gone? Kids today, they haven't got the first damn inkling of what to do if the world suddenly goes up. Turn off the electricity today and they are screwed, royally screwed. It's the end of life in there for them. No idea how to cope. So it's amazing, and it's kind of stretching out into the workplace now too, where the younger generation of people coming into the workforce, they don't have the drive that we had. They don't have any kind of work ethic. They're entitled. They're lazy. They expect management or the employer to provide answers for everything and make everything as easy as possible for the employees because they're too damn lazy to figure it out for themselves. And things like who wears the nicest clothes or who is the happiest every day. Those are the people that get ahead. And those of us who've got decades of experience, way more knowledge and background on stuff than the majority of the people around them, they're the ones that get passed over and told, well, no, you're not social enough, or you're not trendy enough, and that's what's happening to me right now, and it's frustrating as hell because I've got more time in the classroom than most of them have in the bathroom. And they're the ones who are getting promoted and getting moved on, and I'm still stuck where I am, and I can't get ahead. And I'm only 3 years away from retirement, and I'm probably not going to move an inch more than where I am right now for the remainder of that time. And I'm frustrated, and it's really boiled over and gotten the better of me, and now I'm here talking to you guys about all the things that shouldn't be happening. And we have the younger generations and their attitudes to thank for it. And this great society, this advanced human civilization that took hundreds of years to develop, it's all going to pot. It's all going to shit in a handbasket. And by the end By the end of another few years, the world is screwed. That's the way I see it. They can't even think for themselves anymore. They need the computer to do the thinking for them. And that's why there's such a big push on AI, the biggest friggin' bullshit lie ever passed on humanity. AI is supposed to be artificial intelligence. Unfortunately, there is no intelligence in artificial intelligence. It's just artificial regurgitation of the intelligence that was sought and developed by people like us. And it's all gotten dumped on the internet. It's the biggest receptacle of fact and fiction. And that's what AI draws on. And that's all AI is. Just feeding back and regurgitating the same bullshit that anybody could find typing a search in Google. And you can't be guaranteed of the validity of the answer you're going to get. AI is fucking bullshit. It's crap, and there's no such thing as intelligence in AI. And that's what the kids today are depending on. Kids today are doing their school papers. There's people in university doing their thesis with AI because they're too damn lazy to pick up a pencil or grab a typewriter or a keyboard and actually write it themselves. Why use this when the computer will do it for you? That's what it's come to. Yeah, and that's the other side of it. The value is on the wrong commodity. Yeah. Anyways, I'm becoming bitter in my old age, but whatever. Thought it'd be a fun thing to talk about. Not that it's going to get anywhere, but it's a good place to vent, I guess. Eh? Maybe you guys are thinking some things that you want to vent on too. Chat GPT is not reliable. It's based on human interactions. It's just a tool and a fool. Because anybody who relies on Chat GPT is a bigger fool than Chat GPT is. Because it doesn't know a damn thing. It just says, oh, keyword, look, here's something, puts it together. There you go. Duh. Yeah. I agree. And yet it's becoming a rampant issue. It's rearing its ugly, stupid head in education all over the world. It's scary. It's scary. Dr. Nimrod. What are we moaning about now? Oh, that's right. Damn rapscallions making life easy for themselves because we thought we taught them to. How dare they use the tech we invented? And that's just it. It's one thing to invent a tech, but it's another to just blatantly use it without realizing that it's not ready for that kind of use and not learning anything about it and the effects it might have. It's still being developed. Maybe one day it will get to the point where it can think for itself. I doubt it. But for a use like academics, it doesn't belong, and it should not. There are other applications for AI that are much more suited to what it can do. It does not belong in the classroom and should not be allowed in any educational institution at any level. That's what an educational institution is for, to teach you to think for yourself, to investigate, to learn, to deduce, to creatively problem solve. And that's a skill that the young generation just isn't learning because they're incapable of it. And I see it every day. Yeah, true. Unfortunately, that's a common refrain all over the world now. I want my kids to have everything they ever want. I don't care what it costs. I want my kids to have the best. Well, if you can afford it, go right ahead. Don't blame me when they become useless sacks of flesh on your couch when they're 50. Brought it on yourself. You know? Yeah, you're right. It's not that they are using tech we invented, but they don't use it correctly. Tech will never be absolute. That's right. It's a tool and nothing more. And like every tool, you need to learn how to use it. Because if you don't, you're going to hurt yourself. Or it's just not going to work. Mhm. So yeah, that's my gripe. So anything else, folks? Anybody got anything else they want to throw onto the fire? Throw out the fan, see what sticks. Anybody? Oh. Let's see. Yeah, well, we all do. We all want our kids to have better than we did. Um, yeah, you're right. When I was a kid, I didn't have a computer in my room, but kids nowadays do, and I don't have a problem with that. That's not my gripe. It's like everything. I we all want our kids to have better than we had, but they also need to learn how to earn it, so that when they do get it, they respect it and they appreciate it, and they they get something from it, uh, and they're responsible with it. It's not just given them because they opened their little squawk box and said, "I want it. Give me, give me, give me." That's where I draw the line. Yeah. Well, I'm at the same point. I'm at the same point. At this point, I'm too old to start over, um, and I'm not going to bother trying. So, the hell with it. Oh, and yet I'm still expected to continue doing all the stuff that's above my pay grade because of my experience. They still expect me to do it, and they still keep asking me to do it, and not giving me a choice on saying no. And yet, uh, I get passed over for the rightful uh, position or pay grade. That's the kicker. Hey, Chris, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you, man. Old dog, new tricks. Oh, yeah, you're right. I may be an old dog, but I keep learning new tricks every year. And thing is, I have the history and the experience to know how to put those tricks to good use and develop them. The new batch we're getting in, useless as tits on a bull. . 'Bull. 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 'Bull Yeah, you're right. Most don't, especially nowadays. No clue what better really means. Yeah, no. Live with what they have, not with what they want. Yeah, you're right. I couldn't agree with you more, Glober Mom. I could not agree more. Let's see. The strokes qualified me for disability pension. Without them, I'd have had to wait another 17 years. Um, you know what? I'm glad. I'm glad that you have something uh, that lets you carry on with your life. That's having strokes. It's horrible. I can't even imagine what it's like to to have gone through that. And if people in your position deserve that help. You've probably worked for many years before then, earning your place uh, to ask for that help. Uh, but nowadays, uh, kids aren't willing to do it. It's all about mommy, I want, and here you go, no questions asked. That would mess them up seriously. That would seriously mess them up. Oh yeah, big time. I'm telling you right now, man. Turn off the electricity for a day. They will be beside themselves wondering what the hell went wrong. They would not be able to cope. Not at all. Disconnect the internet. That's it. Done. No access to the internet. They'd be screwed. And unfortunately, the entire world at this point has gotten to the point where we'd all be screwed if we lost the internet because everything we do depends on that connectivity. You know, I mean, sure, I could go back to the old school ways of doing my research and doing everything the way I used to do it and learned how to do it. But those who depend on the internet and their computer to write a document or to plan a lesson or whatever the work is, they're screwed. But us old fogies who are around for years and years can pick up a notepad and a pencil and still do the work. Pick up a book, thumb through the pages, find the information. We can still do the work. Yeah, everything. Everything now is 100% dependent on the computer. You know, that's just the way everything is set up. And that's why, unless kids today start realizing they still need to keep up the old school um, skills, they're just setting themselves up for a world of hurt in case everything goes wrong. Yeah, get rid of automatics, put in stick shifts. Half the world would lose the ability to drive. And that's just it. That's the scary part. That's the scary part. You know, and the way things are going with the younger generation, who's going to be around to fix it if something does go wrong with that system? We're not going to be here forever. Hmm. Yeah. Oh my God. Chris, you are so right. I remember the old rotary dials. Took you half an hour to dial a number, whereas now it's just an instant click a name and boom, there it goes. You know, that would break society. It would. And oh, that would be a nightmare. Bring back the rotary phone. Oh. Dial up. Oh my God, you remember dial up? You were around for dial up? I remember when the internet first became open to the public and you started to see the first ISPs showing up in major cities offering an internet service. And when one showed up in my hometown, I signed up right away because I was so intrigued about the internet and the possibilities and email. And they came and they sent a tech out to set it up. And I was on 14.4 dial up. 14.4. Man, it took forever to dial up. And then you had to listen up. You are now connected. Oh my Lord. What an experience that was. The happiest day I can remember was when I got to upgrade to a 56K. Yeah, phones with cords. That would break society. Absolutely. Yeah, dial up a BBS and connect with acoustic coupler. My my friend had one of those. He had one of those hooked up to his Radio Shack Tandy. He had the cradle, put his phone down on the cradle, had to use a rotary dial to dial the number, and he would log into his BBS with that. Oh my God. I remember that. An 82 pup. You're an 82 pup. Yeah, it was sold like cell phone plans, or monthlies, or by hour. Yeah, you had your bandwidth limitation. My bandwidth limitation when I first signed up was 150 megabytes or 150 hours per month, and my highest transfer speed was 250 kilobytes per second. slow. Oh man, but it was cool. I had my first email account on Hotmail, and then I got one on Yahoo. And I used those for years. What search engines were you guys using, if you can remember? If you were around with dial-up, what were your search engines of choice back then? Can anybody remember? AOL 100 free discs. Yeah. I remember that. Oh my Lord. I remember when they first released Windows 95, it took 25 floppies to install that sucker. Windows, my first operating system on my first computer, an IBM PS2 386, had Windows 3.11 for work groups on it. And it took 7 floppies, I think it was, to install. Yeah, we didn't have Firefox back then. Back then, the two big browsers were Netscape and Internet Explorer. And Netscape by far was the superior browser. So that's what I was using when I first got on the internet. And then Internet Explorer 3, I think it was, came out, and it actually was a bit better, I found, than Netscape for some things. So I switched over to that. But yeah, we didn't have Firefox and any of the others. Yeah, Netscape was awesome. Netscape Navigator. It was a great browser. Gone the way of the dinosaur. Yeah. But for search engines, Alta Vista, yes. I was just going to say that, Jens. That's what I used mostly, Alta Vista. And there was another one called Lycos, which was really good for image searches. And then I started using Yahoo, which was good for general searches. But Alta Vista, I think, still was better. It wasn't until much later on that Google came on the scene, and at first Google was no different or no better than Yahoo, but for some reason Yahoo just kind of dropped off and Google took over everything, you know. But at first they were just a search engine. They didn't offer any browsers or any kind of online productivity services. Yeah. Anybody remember Ask Jeeves? I think it's still around, actually. Ask Jeeves was pretty cool. It was really good for bizarre, off-the-wall searches. It could find stuff that others couldn't, you know. 94 when you got the internet. When I first got the internet, it was 87 or 88 when I first got the internet. And that's also when I got my first personal computer. Up until then, the only computers I'd ever used were the ones at work. Yeah. Really cool. Oh, you use Mosaic on the Mac. I remember Mosaic. Yeah, when I was learning multimedia design, we used Mac in school, and they all used. Well, at first they used Mosaic, but after about a month into my course, they upgraded all the systems to Netscape for Mac. But yeah, Mosaic was pretty cool, but it was mostly text-based, so limited to what you could do. 64 gigabyte hard drive. Wow, that's cool. My first computer only had 20. It's not 20 gigabytes. It had what was it now? I had a 100 megabyte hard drive and two megabyte, 200. Can't remember now. I think 20 megabytes RAM. No, 2 megabytes of RAM. That's the. Oh God, it's a long time ago. I'm trying to scratch my head trying to think of exactly what I had on that thing. Everything I ran on it was most, well, everything on Windows back then was run on DOS. So you had to know DOS to be able to get the most out of your system. So I had to learn DOS to be able to do some more advanced stuff. But yeah, man. I remember once there's I saw a video, I think it was, where Bill Gates said 20 megabytes of hard drive space and 2 megabytes of RAM is more space than we'll ever need. Oh, how wrong you were, Billy. Commodore 64 and a VIC 20. Wow, that's old school. Tried dialing 999 on a rotary. Yeah, that's my first computer was also a 386. It was an IBM PS2. 386. ZX81, 1K RAM, no hard drive. Oh, that's when they were still you were still saving everything to those big floppies, the 5.25-inch floppies, isn't that? I remember those. Yeah. And that was even before Microsoft Office and Microsoft Excel. We were still using Lotus 123 and Quattro Pro for spreadsheet stuff, and I think I was using native Windows WordPad for word processing. Yeah, that's, man, archaic. No, thankfully, when I first started with computers, they actually had turned to floppies, 5.25 and 3.5. My 386 had both. I had a 5.25 and a 3.5-inch floppy. But yeah, no tapes. No tapes. I think we had a machine in the office at the warehouse I was working back then that used tapes for mass storage. Let's see. You worked at an engineering corporation back from 86 to 89 with IBMs, which we had to use using C prompts. Yep, that's DOS. We also have computer 2 and 5.75-inch floppies, should we need it. Yeah, we saved all of our work on 5.75 floppies, or 5.5 floppies, those big black ones. Yeah, it only had like 500 kilobytes of storage space, and then we got the smaller 3.5-inch, or was it 2.5-inch? 3.5-inch, I think. The smaller floppies, and then they had 1.44 megabytes. So everything switched to that because the capacity was so much greater. Oh, you guys, you remember the zip drives, the big floppy that held 100 megabytes? I had one of those. Needed a special card in your machine for it with a SCSI cable. Slow as hell, but great capacity. I had one of those. They were made by a company called iOmega. Anybody remember those? I had one of those. Punch tape cards. Now that's getting real old school. Punch tape cards. Okay, so you're used to the range of the old tech. Yeah. iOmega Zip. Yeah, I remember. I had one. Yeah. They made great ninja stars. Oh man. Oh, you took a graphic design class. We used the zip drives for our work, and we also worked on Macs. Yeah, same here. That's why I got mine, because we're starting to work on files that got too big for the floppies. So we had to get a zip drive. That's exactly why I got mine. Yeah, you're right. Um, External hard drives. I never really used them until, well, I'd say actually the first one I used was I think in 2004. I actually invested in an external hard drive, uh, but not very reliable. Sorry to say. Uh, God, that's an old machine, booted from an 8-inch floppy. That must have taken forever. Two cows. You remember two cows? I remember two cows. Two cows was awesome, man. It was a best repository for freeware and shareware on the internet. I remember two cows. Yeah, they were awesome. I was there. I used to go to two cows almost daily to see what was new, you know. Some fun stuff I got from there. Yeah. Now when you talk megabytes, people are talking about megabytes. Who does megabytes? Can't even can't even write a file that's smaller than a megabyte. Yeah, terabytes. Yeah, everything is terabytes now. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, things have changed, eh? Things have changed. Now, my system is pretty cool, but it can't keep up anymore. It's 7 years old now, but the problem is the hardware runs great, but it's the software that keeps updating. And every time it updates, it slows me down because all the new updates for the software I use is geared towards the new technologies and Windows 11 and so on. And this system just can't keep up with it anymore. You know, and I'm starting to get blue screens, slow performance. 12 a 15-minute video took like 5 hours to render last week. I was working on a project. Unbelievable. Just slow as molasses. I'm starting to get far too many system crashes and blue screens. So I think it's holding out, but not very well. Yeah, I've got a terabyte on my new laptop as well. That seems to be pretty much standard nowadays for new laptops and new desktops. Most of them now are coming with at least a terabyte of storage or a combination storage and boot drive. Uh, but they kind of have to because software nowadays is it's not like you can the software you used to get when we were first starting out. You could fit a program on a floppy, you know. Now it takes a gigabyte or two or three or 10 or 20 gigabytes uh, for a piece of software, you know. So you need that storage nowadays. Yeah, I remember that, Jens. Windows defrag. It's still a useful thing every now and then if you're still running a mechanical spinning drive, but don't ever use it on SSDs. It'll mess them up. Do not, do not ever defrag an SSD. I know somebody who did it, and it cost them. Yeah. Wow. That's cool, Clive. I wish I had that kind of storage. Right now, I'm pretty limited. I've got I think a total of 3 terabytes of storage on a 2 terabyte hard drive, and then I've got half 500 gigabyte SSD for a boot drive. That's it. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of theories about who did what, and it's kind of hard to track it all back. But let's just say that Bill Gates and Microsoft um, pulled off some kind of a coup because they turned it into a moneymaker, like you can't believe, you know. Um, but then, I guess back in those days, the people who actually developed it and came up with it didn't really realize what they had, and maybe Billy Boy and his cohorts saw the possibilities and ran with it, and just picked it up and bought it out from under their nose, and now look at them. But then again, in the computer industry, most of what we see out there now is a ripoff of somebody else. Our office here, we use WPS, which is from a company called Kingsoft out of China. And the only reason why they use it is because it's free. And it is a lame ass, cheap knockoff of Microsoft Office. Doesn't do half of what Office can do. And as far as its performance, it's lacking. And any of the cool stuff it might potentially be able to do, you got to pay for. So what's the point? But it's a freebie, so that's what they use. I hate it. I do everything in Microsoft Office, and I'll just run it on WPS on my Office computer because it'll run the Microsoft files. But I won't do any development or file creation using that WPS crap. I'll do it all in Office on my laptop. Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, that's why PC is the dominant force. Mac is a great product and great performance with limited scope. It's really for the design industry, for graphics and things like that, and a few other things. It's a great machine, but it's so damn expensive. You got to sell your firstborn for a new Mac these days, and so proprietary that they gouge the shit out of you if something goes wrong with it, because they're basically suing anybody who tries to repair it. They make it impossible for repair shops to work on. The right to repair movement now is really up in arms. Have been for quite a while. But hey, everything being developed and being written nowadays is all focused on PC. And yeah, that's just the way it is. Open Office has evolved into LibreOffice. Same thing. Useful in a basic sense. It does a lot of the things that Office does, but in comparison, it's still a weak ass copy. Uh, you know, but you can run it for free if all you want to do is the basic things that most people would use Office for. But if you want to use any of the really good stuff, you got to pay for it. No, I'm very happy with Office. I'll stick with Office. At least I know what it can do, and a lot of things I can do that none of the others will do. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. That actually stemmed from Microsoft embedding Internet Explorer as part of the operating system with the release of Windows 98. So that launched a huge antitrust suit uh, because it appeared that they were creating a monopoly on the browser wars. So they had to actually deintegrate it from the operating system and release it as a standalone so that Netscape and the other browsers could compete. Uh, it was all for naught anyway, because by then Internet Explorer truly was the better browser. So most people just kept on using it anyway. But that was the gripe, and it was Netscape that started that suit because they didn't like Microsoft integrating the browser into the OS, and they felt it was unfair and eliminated competition. So yeah, but yeah, I remember that went on for a long time. That went on for a long time. So uh, yeah, and for that, LibreOffice or even WPS from Kingsoft, perfect for that kind of usage. Nothing wrong with it. But I don't like the workflow. I'm really not very happy with the way it runs in general. And, you know, I just love Office. I've been using Microsoft Office since before PowerPoint was Microsoft. Um, yeah, it's a long time. Well, of course. Of course. Of course they did. We all know they did. Shady tactics. But then again, I can't say that any of the other software or hardware manufacturers of the day were really that angelic in comparison. They were all using shady tactics for their own benefit to some degree or another. So that's just one of those things. You know, it's like I saw a movie about the battle between Microsoft and Mac or Apple, and there was a line in the movie. It's where the character of Bill Gates said it's like uh, Apple and Microsoft got all wanted to go to the same house and steal the goodies, and Apple was pissed off that Microsoft got there first, and that's really, in a nutshell, what it boils down to. They were both trying to steal the same freaking crap from the same house. Just Bill Gates got there first, So yeah, shady, but that's business, I guess. Windows 95 equals Macintosh 84. Um, I suppose. I suppose. But whether it was equal to or better than or less than, nobody can deny that Windows 95 changed personal computing for the world. And that's why it did so well. I don't necessarily agree with that, but okay. It may have to some extent, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, Apple had the same opportunities, really. Just Bill was a little bit more crafty and more on the ball and jumped on opportunities a little faster, you know. And he knew how to work his way around a deal. He was a gambler. What can I say? You know? But it's neither here nor there. Nowadays, the majority of computing is PC based, Windows based, and Mac certainly has its place, and in its place, it does fantastic, and more power to them, you know. But the majority of the world, well, they're PC users. Just the way it worked out. You know? Yeah, I had 3.1 as well. That's what I started out with too. Yeah. And every side has their camp of loyalists that will stick with that brand with for better or worse. You know, the Mac diehards are there's as many Mac diehards as there are Windows diehards. For me, it's just the availability of software, the general overall compatibility or proliferation of Windows just made more sense. And once I got used to using a computer, I was happy with the way Windows was working. Um, I do know that when I was in school, I would use the Mac in school for the design process or design courses I was taking, and they worked great. But uh, I swear to God, I'd have a system bomb virtually daily, where I could go months and months and months on Windows without a crash. So I never really was very comfortable using a Mac. I never really liked the workflow. I just, no. To me, Windows was just a more comfortable environment, and it worked the way I like to use a computer, and I just stuck with Windows. So, you know, and they both have their ups and their downs, their good points and their bad points, and well, no, they're not the only alternatives. There are others, but I never saw a need to investigate any of the others because for me, Windows was doing what I wanted it to do, and I didn't need anything else. I could have gone OS 5, I could have gone BOS, and some of the other OS systems that were out there, but it would have restricted my access to the software I was using. A lot of it's not available on those other systems. Um, Even today, a lot of people swear by Linux, but I don't. I don't like it at all. And trying to get things to run on Linux for the most part is a freaking nightmare. At least for me. So, nah. Why should I switch when Windows is doing everything that I need and doing it well without too much trouble? And I'm just used to it. So, hey, if you love your Mac, you stick with your Mac and you go for it. I'm glad you found a system that really works well for you and that you're happy with. Um, but I'm not interested in any of the others. They don't offer anything that outdoes Windows that makes a difference to me. So there you go. I don't have blinders on at all. No, I don't. Operating systems and computers is the same like everything else. You find the one that suits your needs and does things the way you do it and that you're comfortable with, and that's what you stick with, right? I see no reason to change. So why should I? There's no point. You know, it's not about having blinders, just being happy with the way things are going. I have no reason to use any other system. I like Windows. And for the most part, I'm very happy with the way it works. Sure, there are things about it that piss me off, but then I'm sure there's things about Mac that piss you off. Or Linux. No one is perfect. Yeah, there's a ton of tech experts and that are out there that can help you. And then if there's those scammers that will scam you, regardless of what operating system you're using, they'll find a way to scam you. So that's not really much of an argument, isn't it? But you're right. Scammers are a scourge, and they'll zero in on any operating system they can. It doesn't really matter. No, no. Samsung Galaxy running One UI 5.1 works fine. Does what I want it to do. As a matter of fact, I love it. It's a great phone. I see no reason to have a Windows phone, you know. And for the most part, the Windows phones I've seen, the problem is not with the Windows install. It's a problem with the manufacturer of the phone and the performance of the phone itself, not the operating system. So, no, I've never really saw a need to have a Windows phone. Android does the job. Then this is a different environment. This is a different application. I don't need Windows on the go. This does the job I need it to do. You know? Could be. Don't really care. All I know is that the current operating system on here works great. I haven't had any trouble with it. It's called One UI version 5.1. And yeah, all the rest of that doesn't mean a thing to me. As long as it works, it does it well, and I don't have to deal with issues every other day. And I haven't had an issue with this thing since the day I got it. So yeah, I had an iPhone for a while. Got rid of it. I switched to an Android simply because it was a lot more compatible with my computer and other things. And uh, I just, I really, I will say this, and I'll be honest. I honestly believe that iTunes is the absolute worst, most horrendous piece of software ever inflicted on the human race. I cannot stand it. I refuse to use iTunes. I will not ever go anywhere near anything that needs iTunes to work. So I got rid of it and switched to Android and never regretted it for a minute. Yeah. iTunes is simple. Great. I'm glad it's simple for you. For me, it's shit. So, yeah. But, anyways, um, yeah, see, we all have our likes and our dislikes, and I accept everybody's choices. I don't judge anybody. And you know, if you're crazy about Mac and you swear by Mac, then good on you. Go for it. Glad you found something you're happy with. Hope it works well for you and continues to do so. And I shall do the same. So, anyways, my throat's starting to get a bit sore. Um, so I think I'm gonna call it early. Still got about 10 minutes to go, 15 minutes. So, if there's anything else you guys would like to bring up, by all means, let's get it out there. See if we can chew up these last 15 minutes and finish this up. Yeah, same here. It doesn't. I'm not into getting the latest tech, or I'm not into whether or not my system is more stylish or what. You're right. I buy what works as long as it does what I need to do without problems or without major issues. I have no need for any of that other stuff. So yeah. Um, So before streaming became a thing, you actually made money on your music because of iTunes. Hey, and that's great. That's great. I'm glad that it benefited you. I've had nothing but nightmare experiences with it, and I'll never touch it again. So, but hey, I guess for you being a musician, it probably does more of what you want a piece of software like that to do. I don't have a need for that. And I resent having to have uh, an, an expensive, overpriced iPhone because I can't, eh, because it will only work properly with iTunes. There's nothing else I can use that will work right with it. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to spend money on an overpriced fancy phone when something else will do me just fine and work with what I've got. Yeah, I I think I have somewhere around here, floating around here. I think I have one of the first generation iPads kicking around, collecting dust. I haven't looked at it in about 10 years. It's sitting in a box somewhere. Can't sell it. Nobody wants it. So, but you're right. Totally locked down. Can't do anything with it. So let it sit in the box and rot. Oh, it's probably obsolete before it even leaves the factory. To be honest, that's the way it is with tech. Tech is advancing so fast that obsolescence happens before it's even released. You know, but that's the tech world, I guess. But you know, um, like I'm sure this system I have now would probably be working for another 20 years if all the software and stuff that I use wasn't constantly upgrading. And that's what's slowing this thing down and killing it. It can't keep up with the new performance expectations of the software upgrades as they're coming through. So either I stop upgrading my software and lose out on all the new cool features that I really want, or I upgrade my system. That's my only choices. And it's probably the same for Mac or Linux or anything else. There comes a point where the expectations of the software exceed the capabilities of the system you're running it on. And that's why the tech industry's got you in this loop. You need to regularly upgrade to keep up with it all. So, yeah, Twilight Zone is coming true, obsolete man. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, now. You're on Spotify now? Point was people bought tracks. Now they listen for free and I make a tenth of a penny from Spotify. Yeah. I mean, these are all kinds of things that have really hurt musicians, you know? But it's so rampant. What can you do? You know? There's very little you can do. So, you know, Clive, I had a laptop, an HP Pavilion, that I used for over 10 years. And that thing was rock solid. Never had a major issue with it at all. And then one day it just said, I'm done. And that's it. But that was a great laptop. I think it was 10 and a half, almost 11 years I used that thing. Never had a hiccup. Solid as a rock. So, yeah, the same thing with me. It reached a point where it just couldn't keep up with the modern software anymore. And it just said, that's it, I'm done. So I reached a point where I had to upgrade to a new one. So yeah, I know how you feel. Same thing. Rock solid that thing was. Yeah, but I don't. The work you're probably doing with your PC or your computer, whatever, you're not doing the kind of work that really needs that kind of major upgrades in RAM or GPUs or things like that. You're probably doing a different types of work, like office productivity. If I was just doing Microsoft Office, Word documents, PowerPoint presentation, if that's all I was doing, then this system here would be rock solid. Probably never have a problem with, you know. But because of the video editing I do, the graphics work that I do, streaming, audio production that I do, yeah, it just doesn't have the horsepower to keep up with it anymore. So it's like everything else. It reaches a point where it gets tired and it just needs an upgrade, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I built my own computer as well. I built this computer myself. Uh, Unfortunately, upgrading when needed is not always possible because the cost is outrageous lately. Um, Finding a decent GPU for anything reasonable, uh, any kind of reasonable cost, forget it. Not going to happen. You're either going to get gouged or you're going to have to put up with whatever you've got and hope it lasts. I wish I could do that. Matter of fact, if I could afford just to upgrade my platform, everything else in my system is great. I just need to upgrade the platform. That's it. And unfortunately, that's the expensive bit. I can't afford it. I just can't. Yeah, and for that's fairly light workload. So you probably continue to get years and years out of that system before you really need to upgrade it. As YouTube starts to really push towards 4K and beyond, you might find things slowing down a bit in the future. But yeah, it sounds to me like most of the work you're doing with your system doesn't really require much more than what you've got. So why upgrade until you need to, right? But just remember, prices are freaking ludicrous. So yeah, cool. Again, you found something that works for you. You're happy with it. You're comfortable with it. No reason to change, right? Stick with it. I got no problem with that. That's why I'm using what I'm using. Does the job I want it to do, and I'm happy with it. Yeah, I don't have 4K either, and I don't game. I don't even have a single game installed. Matter of fact, the only games that are on the system are the ones that come bundled with Windows, and I think I've taken most of those out. The ones that are left are ones that I don't seem to want to uninstall, so I never even look at them. So I don't care. They don't take up any space. So yeah, I'm not a gamer either. No interest at all. How about something cheerful like World War III or Armageddon? Well, we can talk about that next week if you like. um, hopefully, we can avoid it, but I don't know. It was a bee in my bonnet, and especially with the way things have been happening in my life lately and my job, and it really was something that was bugging me, and I wanted to vent, and I thought, if I'm going to do that, I might as well vent here and give you guys a chance to either jump on me for it or agree with me or vent of your own opinions on things. That's what this stream is all about. Everybody has a voice. So um, no, 4K editing doesn't need much hardware, but the hardware you do have does need to be of a certain level, because 4K editing can take up a whole lot of system resources. It's all down to your CPU chip. If it's an older generation CPU, um, it could end up slowing you down. But as far as the rest of the hardware is concerned, no, because most people are under the impression that a powerhouse of a graphics card is going to make your editing life bliss. Sorry to say, but that's a load of horseshit. Because most video editing software doesn't even talk to your GPU when it's rendering video. It's all going through the CPU. And that's where the work is being done. And if you've got a weak ass old CPU, you're going to get slow performance. It's all about your GPU and your RAM. Doesn't matter what kind of or your CPU and your RAM. Your GPU doesn't even factor into it, because it's only Adobe Premiere Pro will use the CUDA cores in an NVIDIA graphics card as an additional resource for the rendering, and even that doesn't make all that much difference from what I've seen. It's all about your CPU. Get yourself a strong CPU, an i7 or even an i9. So you've got the cores and you've got the threads and you've got that performance. That's where video editing performance comes from, not your GPU. GPU is all about playback, and gaming. Yeah, you can. Matter of fact, I've seen a couple of build videos on the internet where somebody's actually built a Raspberry Pi to do 4K video editing. As far as I know, it can be done. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't see the big hoopla about 4K, the crispness of and color depth and things of the. This is YouTube, folks. If you want that kind of high def, go to the goddamn cinema, you know, where it matters. And even there, you don't get it. No, uh, no. I think it's all just hype. I produce 4K video. My channel videos are 4K. Who cares? You know, it's just if you got a big monitor, 4K monitor, you get the benefits of 4K. Otherwise, you'll never see the difference. Yeah. 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 It's getting harder and harder. But that's true for almost everything nowadays. Even if you want one of the higher end GPUs, you're going to be waiting over a year probably before you get it. And it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. It's like, yeah, sell your firstborn to get a 4090. You know, not that I need a 4090. I'd never use that much GPU. But if I can get my hands on a decent, even secondhand 3080 Ti, that would be perfect for my needs. I wouldn't have to upgrade my GPU for years. That would be enough, you know? But try to find even a decent, good condition used one that isn't going to break the bank these days. Forget it. It's almost impossible. Thanks to the Bitcoin. So, yeah, blurry eyes, 4K is superfluous. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Unless you got Superman's eyes, most people are not going to see a difference. It's all hype. Hype, hype, hype. Look at me. I'm so cool. I use 4K. Yeah, well, who gives a shit? All you're going to get out of YouTube is 1080p anyway. So, uh, yeah. Again, if you're a gamer, yeah, you might get some real benefit out of a top line GPU. But I don't game. I've never gamed. Don't plan to game. I got no time for it. So to me, that's a moot argument. But for me, it's all about uh, playback when I'm in my editing software. So when I scrub through video, I get that immediate playback. So for smoothness and video editing, and decent playback of the final product. So for me, a 3070 Ti or a 3080 Ti used, if I could find one at a decent price, that would be more than adequate for my needs. But try and find it. Can't. And whoever does have one for sale, gouging you for it. Thanks, but no thanks. Yeah, it'd still be an out of focus picture of the stars, even at 4K, right? Exactly. You're absolutely right, Chris. Exactly. 4K is all hype. To most people, it makes no difference at all. Yeah, that's exactly what I said before. Video editing requires CPU, not GPU, for the rendering side of the equation. Okay, so with a good GPU, you can get better idea of the quality of your output after you've rendered. When you play back, a good GPU will show you the flaws in your production, so you know where to go back and make some tweaks and re-render. But for other than that, nah, it doesn't matter. It's all CPU. That's where the work is done. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it looks like we're just about out of time, folks. Oh, geez, we're over time. So I'm going to call it here. It's been fun. It's been it's been a cool little bitch session about all kinds of stuff. Again, you know, on my Discord, there's a channel called the Viewer Video Suggestions or Ideas. If you want to talk about something in particular, or you want to have a discussion about something in particular, put it in there. Let me know. I'm more than happy to have a discussion about whatever you guys like. I mean, it's just a time for us to get together and shoot the shit kind of thing. I've had my grip for today. Can pack it up, put it aside, and move on. You know, I've heard your opinions and I appreciate it. We've been able to move through a couple of topics, but either way, I appreciate you guys coming out. As always, I thank you very, very much. And yeah, by all means, get on my Discord. Let me know what you'd like to talk about next week, and we'll make it happen. So until then, thanks, folks. Have yourself a good rest of the weekend, and I'll see you guys again next week. All right? Cheers.